All right. Hey, folks. Welcome in. Hey, Dave Celentano here with Guitar Tricks sponsored Wednesday night classes. Hey, Roland, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you here. And Russ, Steve, Peter, JV, some of the usual suspects. Right on. Hey, tonight we're starting a 3-week series on string bending and vibrato. So you might want to get out an electric guitar. This will be a lot easier on electric than acoustic. Although you can do vibrato on acoustic, it's definitely good to do if you're going to do any type of soloing on acoustic. Probably not going to do too much string bending, though. That's why I really recommend getting and pulling out your electric guitar for this stuff. So go ahead and expand the text box under the YouTube video. You're going to see the curriculum. It's 3 pages, and we're going to actually use the same 3 pages for the entire 3 weeks because there's a lot of stuff on there, and I'll be playing some of those examples plus giving some other examples too. So let me make a note here. Okay, cool. So first up, let's talk about vibrato. That's the top example there. And then on page 3, I've got a bunch of examples that we can also, not examples, but pointers, things like a checklist of things to listen for and look for when you're working on it. So there's a few different types of vibrato, okay? One of them is the rock and blues one, the one we see the heavy metal players doing, okay, all of the above. It's where you're going to fret the note. Say we're on the 7th fret in string 4, and you're just going to rock the note back and forth, up and down motion, kind of up towards the ceiling a little bit, let it back down to neutral, and then maybe pull it down to the floor a little bit and then back to neutral. Okay, so what I usually do is either grab the string and I go up and let it come back down to neutral position, or sometimes I'll yank it down. Obviously, if you're on the 6th string doing vibrato, you're going to have to yank it down. Okay, and you know why? Because if you go up, you're going to push off the edge of the neck. Same with the high E string. You're not going to pull down with it because you're going to go right off the edge of the fretboard. You're going to push upwards. Okay, and there's a lot of good lessons on this on Guitar Tricks. I'll put a few links for everybody there in a little bit. Okay, so 2 vibratos that we want to talk about is the rock vibrato, which is also like the heavy metal, the country, and the blues vibrato. That's where you're going to go up and down with the string. It's really similar to doing a string bend, okay? But we're not going to bend it and bend it far. We're only going to bend on vibrato. You're basically bending the note just a little bit sharp and then letting it back down to neutral or standard pitch. Okay, or downwards. Okay, and the other vibrato, I'm going to actually go over some details with this in a few minutes, but let me show you the other vibrato. We're probably not going to use as much, but it's the classical guitar vibrato. And if anyone's studied classical guitar, you're going to see a lot of the players, they don't go up and down with the string, they go left and right. Because in classical guitar, you typically don't bend the strings. And you can hear too by this, when you go left and right, the note doesn't sound as moving as much. The note doesn't go sharp as much. You can hear it just a little bit when you go back and forth. Okay? And the idea is to get a very smooth and controlled vibrato, not this nervous where the note's all jagged and erratic. You want to practice it slowly. It's like everything, folks. You learn it slowly, correctly first, and then you speed it up. So take it really slow and just practice it back and forth. Okay? You can kind of hear it a little bit, but it's nowhere near as dramatic as the rock one when we go up and down. So you can really hear that. Okay? And then there's also, let's stick with the up and down vibrato, the one most of us are going to be using. And then think about this. You've got different degrees of vibrato you can do. You can do a very narrow vibrato. Or you can get really wide with it. The trick is, though, it's got to be controlled, and it needs to be in steady time. And what I'm going to encourage everyone to do is pay attention to your favorite guitar players, find them on YouTube, and watch, see if you can see some live videos that I'm playing, and watch for the vibrato. When they shake the note, if you listen carefully, and you can even slow the videos down, I'd recommend slowing them way down, and you can hear that the vibrato for most guitar players, most good guitar players have a very smooth vibrato, and it's usually in time with the song, in time with the metronome, the beat, the drummer. Okay, so that's another good thing to practice, is trying to practice your vibrato in time with the beat. You can do that with a metronome. You can also do that with any song. I'll give you an example in a second here. So just getting control of it is super, super important. And folks, if you play a million notes and you know all your scales, but you don't have good vibrato, it spoils the party. All right. Vibrato is so important, and it really kind of separates the really good players from the not so good players. All right. So spend time working on your vibrato, because even if you're not going to be a shredder and playing all these notes, and you're just going to kind of be playing some really tasty, slow blues, you've got to have good vibrato. Listen to those blues players if that's what you like. B.B. King's got a great vibrato. Stevie Ray Vaughan does. Pretty much all the pros, all the good players that we like, Gary Clark Jr., Joe Bonamassa, killer vibrato on all these players. All right. So pay attention to what they're doing and try to listen carefully, and then just get it in control, controlled. Okay. So my example one just goes like this. It's a little simple exercise that we're going to practice sliding into a note and then vibratoing it. And we're going to slide into the 5th fret on string 3 with your first finger. We're practicing vibrato with different fingers as well. Then we slide up to, it looks like a 9 on the 3rd string. Okay, then I give a surprise note here, 7 on the 2nd string. You could also slide to 8 on the 2nd if you want to keep it within the pentatonic scale. And then the last note is 10 on the 2nd. And it's in the key of A minor, but it's designed, that little exercise is really over 2 chords, A minor to D7. So each note, if you think about it, that A is in the A chord. That 5th fret in the 3rd string is a C note. That's in this D7. You can hear it. Okay, then the 9 in the 3rd string. That's also in the A minor chord. And then the 7 on the 2nd string. That's in your D7 chord. And then the last note, 10 on the 2nd string, is in the A minor chord. That would be if you're informed with the modes, that would be the Dorian mode, the A Dorian mode. Okay. Maybe we'll do some lessons on the modes in the future, but tonight we're just going to work on vibrato and string bending. And then, hey, Bang, good to see you here, buddy. Okay, so we're working on vibrato right now. We're going to get into string bending in a little bit. Okay, so there's a backing track. We can find them all over the place, but in Guitar Tricks, we've got a cool little feature called the Jam Station, and it's got backing tracks in all kinds of genres: blues, surf guitar, metal, country. Did I say blues? Rock, of course, jazz. And they're really cool because all those different styles kind of make you play different over them. All right. You don't really want to play blues licks over something that's heavy metal sounding necessarily. It might sound kind of good, but you want to kind of fit the genre. So that's what the different types of backing tracks we have on Guitar Tricks are. So I found one here. It's in the Jam Station. It's under the rock category. Oh, shoot, I just lost it. Yeah, it's the David Gilmour style for lead guitar. It's in A minor. And then this is what it sounds like, folks. And then what I'm going to do is just play over that. It's in A minor, and I'm going to add vibrato to notes. Okay, listen to this. Okay. Sometimes playing the backing tracks over the internet and YouTube's not necessarily the best fidelity, but hopefully you could kind of hear what I was playing over that backing track. Okay. So I'm just playing the A minor scale, A minor pentatonic, A Dorian, and just trying to find good notes. And then every time I land on a note, this is also a good rule of thumb too when you're vibratoing. Usually you vibrato the notes you sustain. So if I was going to go, okay, I'm not going to vibrato any of the fast notes, but all the ones I sustain. Just kind of shake them. It makes it sound a little more musical, folks. And what we're trying to do with the vibrato is we're emulating the human voice. Okay. Even violin players, if you listen to some good violin players, they've got a good vibrato. Okay. So we're trying to emulate the human voice. You know how another good example too, you could take the national anthem. You know, we always hear that at sporting events, you know. And then vibrato all the notes on that. There we go. See how that works? So you can add vibrato into any melody you got. Okay, just shaking the notes like that, up and down. Okay, so what I'm going to encourage people to do, I'm going to pull out my metronome here. Let's set it at a kind of a slow tempo. It'll be like 80 beats a minute on the metronome. Okay, now good way to practice your vibrato is, let me shut that off for a minute. Practice the different subdivisions of the beat, like try quarter notes where you're playing one little bend of the vibrato on each beat, and then try eighth notes where you're going to bend it twice on each beat, and then try triplets, 3 notes per beat, when you play 3 little bends real quick per beat. But you got to get them in time with the metronome. That's why it's really good to practice with the metronome, folks. In fact, I practice with this every day. And before our lesson tonight right here, I was practicing on my classical guitar, that one down there, using my metronome. All right. We all need help with that. Even if you've been playing 50 years and you're a pro musician, you're going to need to practice occasionally with your metronome because we're human. We all ebb and flow with the beat. So the metronome keeps it real and keeps us in line because it's real important. You know, I know most of us that are playing guitar are eventually going to play a song, or for somebody on the downside, you might even play in a band. Okay. People that hear you play, doesn't matter how complicated you're playing. If you're playing something simple and it's not in time, it kind of turns off the listener. It's a little rough on the ears. So you really want to get the hang of the metronome and work on your timing. Okay, so here, let's try 80 beats a minute. Now I'm going to grab that first example and I'm just going to let each note's going to get 4 beats. So the first one, when I do quarter notes, I'm going to shake it. Okay, like that. Just try to shake it up and down 1 note per click. JV's asking, what amp do you use? Well, JV, I'm actually not using any of the amps in back of me, but I'm using the Axe effects. And then I run that directly out of that into an interface on my computer so that you guys can hear it directly from the Axe effects. Now, so that I can hear it, I've got the speaker, that headrush speaker, hooked up to the Axe effects. So that gives me the little monitor in my ears right behind me. Okay, so another good thing too with vibrato is don't necessarily do it right away. Let the notes settle for a sec and then vibrato. Okay, I'll give you the same thing, illustrate it one more time. So here's the beat. 1, I'm going to slide on the first beat and a vibrato on the second, third, and fourth. 3, 4. Okay, and just for the sake of keeping it in A minor pentatonic, let's change that 7 in bar 2 to an 8, and this will sound probably a little better if you're used to just hearing the A minor tonality, okay? But you hear how it's working like that? It's in time with the beat. 3, 4. 8 in the second. Now, granted, this vibrato is very slow, and you're not going to really hear guitar players playing vibrato that slowly, but you'll get the hang of it better if you practice it slowly. And that's what I did when I was younger. In fact, there was Steve I had a lesson in one of the guitar magazines back in the day talking about vibrato, and he's very meticulous with his playing, and we can learn a lot from his study habits and his practice habits. But he would practice his vibrato with a metronome. So, and doing it at different tempos like this. In fact, Steve has an unusual vibrato. He did a seminar, a clinic at MI, Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California, when I was going there back in 1985. And it was right before he joined Alcatraz. He announced that he was officially the new member in the band. Yngwie was out, and he was getting ready to go on tour and rehearse with them. But he did a clinic at the music school I went to. Back then it was called GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology. But he was talking about his vibrato, and he has this weird circular vibrato, which is sort of a combination of the classical vibrato, which is going this way, left and right, and the rock and blues vibrato, which goes north and south, up and down. He kind of does like and inscribes a little circle. Okay, and I would even practice that for a while. Okay, but we're going to develop our own vibrato with practice. And every guitarist has a slightly different approach to it. Sometimes you'll see Eric Clapton will let go of the guitar neck and just do this. See, his thumb's not even touching. It looks like he's just kind of freestyling. Okay? I don't recommend that one. Most of the guitar players that I've studied, Billy Gibbons, B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Ed Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen. Most of those players wrap their thumb around the neck, same with Steve Vai, and then they vibrato kind of with a grip, all right? For me, it helps to keep it more controlled. Okay, if I don't touch the guitar like Eric Clapton does occasionally in some of his vibratos, I feel like I don't have control of it. It might, like the string might pop out from under my finger, and I don't have as much control over it. Okay, so for me, I like to wrap my hand around the neck like that. Okay, now let me illustrate this for the vibrato there. Example 1. I'm going to do eighth note vibrato. So instead of shaking it one time per beat, I'm going to go 2 like this, 3, 4. And you hear how it's kind of going with the time. And then triplets will be this. Triplets are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. 1, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So when you slow down guitar player solos on YouTube, you can even do that in Guitar Tricks. They got a cool slow down feature there. You'll hear the vibrato is almost always in time with the metronome, with the beat of the song. All right. Hey, Maverick, how you doing, buddy? We'll be done a little bit. Okay. All right. So good deal on that. Let's slide over to page 3 for a sec, folks, because I want to point out these tips right here. I've got vibrato tips at the bottom of page 3. Okay. Different types of vibrato. We talked about the wide, narrow, and rock vibrato, gently push the string up and down, and the classical style where the hand moves left to right. And then also the fast and slow vibrato. That's where you want to do it in time with your metronome. Okay. Tip 2, folks, this, I've just mentioned that. You want to wrap your thumb around the neck with a baseball bat grip, like you're grabbing a baseball bat or like a broomstick. Okay. That gives you the grip so it doesn't slip out of your hand. Okay. That works good. The other important thing is here, the pivot point. What's happening, everyone, is that I'm putting my hand on the guitar right where the index finger connects to the hand, that knuckle. I'm putting that underneath the neck, touching it, and that becomes the fulcrum point. That's the pivot point, right? And then I just put my finger on the string. And what I'm doing is just kind of rocking my hand like this, almost like I'm turning a doorknob, like this motion, a twisting motion. And you want to keep your fingers still. You don't want to do push-ups with your fingers like this. You want to keep everything locked solid and then just use your wrist and your hand to control the string. Again, watch the videos, YouTube and on Guitar Tricks when some of the instructors are teaching. You might want to check out some of my videos if you're a Guitar Tricks member. I do some of the heavy metal stuff, like Ronnie James Dio's Holy Diver, Holy Diver was one of them. Some of the Van Halen stuff I did. You can see my vibrato, and if you slow it down with the backing track, when I play the whole song, you're going to hear that the vibrato is in time. Go on YouTube, slow down videos of your favorite player when they're doing a solo, and listen to their vibrato, how it's in tune and in time with the song, okay? And we also want to make sure when you're vibratoing that you let the note back to neutral. So we don't want to go where we're vibratoing and bending the note to another pitch, because then we're bending out of tune, or vibratoing out of tune. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep the note centralized and always let the vibrato return back to neutral position. Okay. Another one, tip number 4 in vibrato, everybody, delayed vibrato and immediate vibrato. Delayed vibrato is my favorite. It's where you're going to hit a note and then let it mature and then vibrato it. Okay, and then the 5th tip says practice vibrato with a metronome as 8th notes, triplets, and 16th notes. I was just going over some of that with you, so there you go. And then the 6th tip, folks, is listen to vibrato of the pros. Ed Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen, B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, etc. Listen to the vibrato at the slow speeds when you slow it down, you really hear that their vibrato is in time with the song. Okay, you gotta, it's all about feeling the beat, people. And whatever you play, whether you're doing chords or riffs or soloing, it needs to be in time with the song. Okay, so let's go back to page 1. That's my long-winded approach to the vibrato, everybody. Okay, that's a good place to start because you don't really have to bend the strings too much. Okay, so we're just rocking it back and forth. You can easily do vibrato on acoustic steel string or a nylon string as well, like I got down there. But you're just not going to bend the strings. Okay, now let's jump down into the example 2, full step bends. Okay, string bending is one of the coolest things with playing solos, rock, blues, country, and metal. And without the bends and without vibrato, your solo would sound kind of flat and boring and kind of not as mature as it could, musically mature. All right. So we got to work on our bends as well. Now with the bends, we're not going to randomly just go. Okay, we're not going to randomly just bend to whatever because then it's out of tune. We don't have a focus. You almost always you want to bend to a note in the scale. All right, you got to bend in tune. So the first example 2, I've got there's 3 bars long. The first bend, let's focus on that for a sec, is the 7th fret 3rd string, and you see it's got an arrow, a curved line with an arrowhead in the top. Then it's got the word full over it. Full means full step in guitar language, or in other words, a whole step. So what that means in guitar is 2 frets higher. So you want the 7 to sound like the 9 without playing the 9. We want to bend up to the 9 in that manner. Okay, and then this is good ear training too. Helps you with your pitch. Play the note you want to bend to, and then go back to the note you got to bend, and then push it up. Okay, we've got to bend in tune, and I'm going to demonstrate over that same backing track in a sec of bending in tune, and I'm also going to demonstrate bending out of tune, and you're going to hear the difference. Okay, the next string is the 8th fret 2nd string. Okay, and that goes up a full step as well. So you want the 8 to sound like the 10th fret. Okay, now before we get much further, you're going to notice, even though we're bending with one finger, and by the way, the finger I would recommend to bend it with is on the number of the fingers on the left side of the little notes up here in the music staff. So don't worry if you can't read music, no big deal. We're not doing that. The important thing is understanding tablature. And then the little symbols they use, like the string bends, the word full means a full step. And then I put the numbers, the finger number I would bend that 7 with on the left side of the black little music notes. You'll see a 3 there. You'll see a 3 next to this one that corresponds with the 8. Okay, so we want to bend with the 3rd finger. But what the tablature and that fingering doesn't tell you is we're not doing this. Okay. Rarely are you going to see a guitar player bend with one finger. Because for me, I don't have the control and the grip. It feels like the string's going to slip out from under my finger. You'll almost always see guitar players bending with more than one finger. If they bend with the ring finger, they're almost always going to support it and help it out with the finger right behind it, and even maybe another finger behind it. So what I do on most of my bends with the 3rd finger is I've got the other 2 fingers butted up right to the back of it. So it's like one big fat finger and everything's focused on that 7th fret 3rd string. See, that's a lot easier for me to bend it with 3 fingers than to try to do one. Even though I can do it, it feels like it's going to slip out from under the finger. And we want control too, because eventually in the next couple weeks, lessons, we're going to do 3 weeks here, everybody. We're going to do bends with vibrato at the top. That's, if you look down, that's down in example 5. We'll get to that in a little bit. So back to the example 2 there, everyone. So you got the 7 on the 3rd string. Push it up a whole step, 8 on the 2nd. And let's go to bar 2 right there of example 2. Looks like 8 on the 1st string with your 3rd finger. Bend that a whole step up to the sound of the 10. And then we're going to finally go up to the 10th fret on the 1st string, bend that up. A full step would be up to the pitch of the 12th fret. Okay, so the sound we want in all 4 of those bends is this. Okay? That's a good exercise. Play the note that's 2 frets higher than each one. And then try to bend up, make it sound just like that little... But with bends. You see how nice and razor sharp that sounds when you get it in tune? And then the last part is a good way to escape your bend. 8 on the 1st string to 10 on the 2nd, really quick. So we got each one will be 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Notice that last note, it's got vibrato. Whenever we let a note ring, we're going to vibrato. And see how I smack into it? Wait a sec, and then I apply the vibrato. Not, but I just think it sounds a little more musically entertaining. I like that sound better when it's the note settles first and then the vibrato. And pay attention to singers, like what I was mentioning to everyone earlier about the national anthem. If you're here in the United States and you hear the national anthem being sung, listen when the singer holds a note and vibratos. They usually hold it and then the vibrato comes. You don't really hear them necessarily grab the note and shake it right away or vibrato it right away. Okay, but there's not one vibrato that's going to work for every instance, folks. I'm trying to show you all the different variations because they're all legal, they're all viable. Just depends on which ones you like, but the bottom line is you're going to have to work on it and develop them, and then you're going to find which ones you like the best and which work best for your music preference. Okay, so let's go back to that backing track for a sec. Now I want to point out how important it is to bend in tune. Okay, so as I approach this track, and there's our track, I'm going to bend out of tune on purpose. Okay, let's go with this. Here we go one more time. 2, 3, 4. One more time. Kind of didn't sound too good, right? I mean, there's some nasty out of tune stuff there. You really want to bend in tune. Now listen to this. I'm going to wing it again over the track. This time I'm going to bend in tune. jamming over these backing tracks, folks, kind of fun, right? And it sounds, when you've got good audio fidelity, it's fun. Yeah, JV, I know the audio's cutting out a little. It's because there's a lot of stuff going through the internet right now. Usually on our Zoom, when I teach my one-on-one lessons on Zoom has some really good audio software in there where we can cut off the noise suppression, and I think they've got a wider bandwidth or something, because it usually sounds pretty decent on the Zoom platform. But for some reason, doing live playing with the backing track and me playing live over it through Zoom, through YouTube, it kind of doesn't sound that good a lot of times. So that's why the audio is cutting out. It's not me. It's just the internet and YouTube. But that's the best we can do. So I can play the same stuff with no backing track, and you can hear it fine. All right, so anyway, let's get back to our little jam here. So playing the backing tracks is fun to do, but you should also be practicing things that'll help your chops get better, like work on your vibrato with the backing track. So you hear the drummer and all that going, and it helps you keep in time. Okay, so that's the example 2. Those were full step bends. All right, so we need to be aware of how far we're bending the notes, not just randomly push it up there. Okay, look at example 3 for a sec. This one's really short. These are half step bends. In fact, I did a few of those on the solo over that backing track a minute ago. Half step bends are 1 fret. So in this case, it looks like both of them are on the 7th fret. 7th fret on the 2nd string. So half step would be 1 fret. You want to make the 7 go up to the pitch of the 8, which is not that far. Okay, and then you also have 7 on the 1st string, up a half step to the 8. Okay, so you want to go. And the last note's the 5 with vibrato. Okay, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, again. And you can kind of mix it up, all right? If you got your Dorian scale, which goes frets 8, 7, 5 on the 1st string, 8, 7, 5 on the 2nd, then 7, 5, 4 on the 3rd and 4th string. We'll just explore that for a minute. And then end on the A to resolve it. Okay, the 8, you could practice your bends in that manner. So we're going to go 8, then 7, bend up to 8, then back to the 5. Same on the 2nd string. Play the 8, then bend the 7 up to it. Come down and play the 7, and then the 5. So you got it. And then the 3rd string, you could do the same idea, but now you're going to bend the 3rd string 5th fret, up a whole step, and that time you would bend it with your 2nd finger. 1st finger helps it. And then the 4th string, same thing. The strings get thicker. As they get thicker, they're a little harder to bend. Gotta really yank that one up if you want to get a whole step. it's working. The thing I just did worked half step bends on the top two strings, whole step bends on the G and D string. It's not in the curriculum, folks, but I just kind of make up stuff on the spot too in these classes. So if you're watching the video, you get the benefit of this extra stuff. But if you just print out the tabs and figure you do it on your own, you're not going to get all the juicy stuff. All right. So Joaquin is saying, hey, Dave, may you teach us how to release a bend without making any kind of unwanted noise with other strings? Ooh, great point, Joaquin. Yes, man. How to bend a string and let it down without the noise of the other strings. In fact, let's explore example 4 for a sec. And I think this is going to help answer your question, Joaquin. Great thing. And folks, I encourage everybody to ask questions. Don't wait for someone else to ask it, because sometimes no one might. And I think Joaquin's question is something that a lot of the viewers are wondering about or have issues with. And I know a lot of my students, when we first start doing string bends, they get all kinds of other noise in there. Okay. So part of it, folks, is you got to work with your palm muting, not just on what you're playing, but muting all the strings that we're not playing. Like when you're doing a bend on that second string, see what I'm doing with my right hand? I'm leaning the kind of my thumb palm muscle area. I'm touching all the strings, the bass strings, like really leaning on 6, 5, and 4, and just letting the high ones open. And then I'm muting the first string with I'm resting my finger on it if I'm not playing it. So I'm trying to create a little window where the only string that's going to make any noise is that second one, the one I'm on. See, this third, I'm kind of muting a little bit. Another part of this, Joaquin, is when you bend a string, a lot of times you'll see guitarists, they'll bend with the third finger, the second helps it. And then the first finger actually isn't helping with the bend, but it's kind of lying on the strings like this. See that the first finger is not pushing on the strings, it's just touching them, muting them. So that way it acts as a muting device. So when you let the bend down, the other string doesn't ring. See, if I don't do that and just go, you hear it makes the third and fourth string ring, because whenever you bend a string, you're always going to push into other strings on top of it. Or if you're on a thicker string yanking it down, you're always going to pull into the third and second string. And then same thing with that. When I'm bending that string, I let my first finger mute all those other strings. See, if we don't do that, see, when I stop, you can hear those other strings ringing. Hear that? Right? But if I mute it with that first finger, see, you don't hear anything. Okay, that's part of it too. A lot of playing guitar, this lead guitar stuff, is not only focusing on what you're trying to play and the notes, but you also got to work with muting the other strings, especially if we play with a little bit of overdrive. And I don't even have that much on. I've got a Blues Junior setup, Fender Blues Junior amp with a tube screamer on it. So it's not that much overdrive. Okay, it's not like Metallica or even some of the Van Halen stuff. This is pretty mellow on that. So if you were to play with more souped up overdrive, just for instance, let me go to more of a 80s metal sound here. Let's get that in. Let's add a little delay to that. Okay, I've got more. See, when I bend, if I don't mute those other strings, you're always going to hear the open third. Hear that? See, I'm not touching it. It's just when I come off the bend, it's ringing. Okay, so we don't want to bend like that. You want to bend with your third finger and second to help it, and let your first mute. Ooh. See, there's no extra note. See that first finger. Ah, you heard it there. It's a lot of working with the palm muting, Joaquin. Okay. So let's take a look at example 4, the reverse bend. So a reverse bend is where you're going to bend the note ahead of time to its predetermined note, a half step or a whole step above. In fact, you can bend even further. We could bend 1.5 steps or 2 steps. We're going to get into that next week. And you could also bend, if you're doing some blues or classic rock stuff, you could bend a 1/4 step bend, which is bending just slightly. Okay, blues players do that a lot, where they'll bend the minor third and the flat 7. They'll bend those notes a 1/4 step. Just they'll bend it like a 1/4 step just to get a little bit out of tune and then land on the good note. Okay, so reverse bends, though, back to the ranch here, folks. Reverse bend means you're going to pre-bend it, not pick it. Let's see how I push it up without making any noise, no picking yet. And then this first bend is a half step bend. So this is a little more tricky than playing the 7 and bending into half step. You have to almost guess where the half step would be. See, that's what we want, is that sound, where you hear the note come down but not go up. And then you have to kind of guess at where it is. This is where your practice comes in, muscle memory. So if you've been practicing your bends, half step bends, you get a feel for how far your muscle needs to push the string. So when you do the reverse bend, you can get your hand in that approximate area. You see, I'm pretty close. That's the 8. Okay. And then the latter part of that first bar in example 4 is a full reverse bend. 3rd string, 7th fret means we got to bend it a full step ahead of time. See that? You want it to sound like 9 coming down to 7. And before you work on the reverse bends, in terms of the pitch, you need to make sure you're solid with just the regular bends, where you pick it and then go up a whole step. Okay, so if you can't go and grab it, you're sounding like, okay, we're too high, too sharp. Or if you're going, okay, you're flat. You got to go a whole step. Hear that 9? Okay, once you're solid on the regular bends, where you pick and then bend it, then try the reverse, where you guess, do an approximate position based on how far your muscle feels you have to go to get the full step. Let it down. And then we're going to end example 4 with a 5 on the 3rd string, 7 on string 4. And then vibrato. Okay, so all together that goes, from the beginning it goes. Okay, that's example 4. Reverse bend, half step. Let it ring 3 beats, or actually after you let it, you pick it on 1, let it down for 2, 3, then 4 is a quick, and then the next bar is 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's real important to get the vibrato happening and get your tune, your notes in tune. Okay. So, a good example of this that we can practice. These are just little ideas I made up. Hotel California, everybody. You're familiar with that song? right? Everyone's familiar with the solo. There's a boatload of string bends going on in that song. So that might be something to check out too. Any solo that's got some good string bends in it. A lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan's blues stuff. We've got blues fanatics out there, and B.B. King, right? We got on Guitar Tricks, we got a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan lessons, stylized lessons. I did a series in the style of Stevie Ray Vaughan. We also have a bunch of Stevie songs. So some good stuff right there. Let me share with everybody a few other things in Guitar Tricks that might be good. Give me 2 secs here to weed out a few for everybody. Okay. I'm going to throw up a couple lessons for string bending and vibrato. Let's find a good one here. Okay, so and fortunately for if you're a Guitar Tricks member, you'll be able to access these links I'm providing right here. This one's on string bending and vibrato by one of the instructors on the site. Hey, Second Chance Band is here. All right, cool. Okay, let me get back to our Oops. Okay, cool. Wow, I don't know where the chat window went. All of a sudden, my chat window just disappeared. Oh no! But hopefully I can see everybody still here. Okay, let me go grab another lesson. Well, you know what? Since the chat window's not there, I can't see. I don't know what happened with that. Okay. All right, so yeah, sorry folks. I'm just all of a sudden my chat window just disappeared. Okay. All right, so if you're familiar with Hotel California, it's got a lot of string bends in that. Okay, some really cool stuff in that. So that might be something to check out. Also, Smoke on the Water, classics rock song for the rock ages. That's on Guitar Tricks too. So we got a lesson for that. That's got a lot of string bending in it, in the solo in that. A lot of the blues songs we have, some of the B.B. King stuff, lots of string bend. So I'd recommend to try out some of those solos and get, start with something easy that's got string bending and vibrato in it. Okay. So let's go ahead and do one more session here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up for the night. For some reason, the chat window disappeared on me, and I'm not sure what happened to it, and I don't see any options to get it back on track. So I'm just going to assume everyone's still here and we're still doing the lesson because it looks like I'm still live. Okay, I just won't be able to answer any questions because I can't see anyone's comments at this point. But example 5, this is another cool technique with string bends. It's called unison bending. Zakk Wylde with Ozzy Osbourne does these a lot. Ace Frehley in the old Kiss stuff does these unison bends a lot. And this, what it means is you're going to bend a note. And let's try just the very first one on the example 5. It's the 5th fret on the 2nd string. You're going to use your first finger there. We're not going to bend that note though. We're going to just hold the first finger there. We're going to put the 3rd finger on the 7th fret, 3rd string. pick both notes, and then we're going to bend the third string up to the pitch of the second string. So it's kind of like, if you remember back in the day when you learned a tune with the 5th fret, okay, it's like listening to a note and then playing another string and bringing that string up or down to match the note you're holding. Okay, hear that? And you want to, it's kind of like tuning. You want to bend up so that both notes match. That 5 on the second string is the pitch we want. The 7 on the third string. You have the second string, third string, second string, third, for the same note. Now, what these guys do, Zach Wild and Ace Frehley on this type of stuff, also Randy Rhoads does this too, is once you get it up, vibrato it. And this is what I was talking about. It's hard to do, but if you practice it, it sounds really cool. Okay, and then what we're going to do is move up to the 8th and 10th fret. We're going to keep the fingers on the same strings and just move that shape up so your first finger's on the 8th fret, second string, ring fingers on the 10th fret, third string. Okay, so we're going to go. And then quickly back to the 7th fret, second string, 9th on the 3rd, bend that. Vibrato that for a sec, and then up to the 10th fret. Okay, now if we look back at all two bars, all 4 of those bends, okay, it goes like this. Hang on one sec. All right, we'll decline that. Okay, so one more time. The first bend is going to get 3 beats, and then 1 beat on the second bend, and then 2 beats each on the last 2 bends. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's cool right there. You could just practice that over and over again like this. Okay, and then the wrap up of that, we go over to the first string, 8th fret on the first string, and then second string, 11th fret with your third finger. When we're bending unison bends on the top 2 strings, we got to be 1 fret higher on the bend finger. So our bend will always be a whole step. You're going to hold the 8th on the first string, then the 11 on the second string. Now keep in mind, the 11 on the second string is not in the scale. But we're going to really hear the 11 because we're going to push it up almost immediately to the 8 pitch of the 8th fret on the first string, which is in the scale. Back to the 7th fret and the 10th on the second. It's like you're tuning. Make both notes sound the same. You don't want to go too far. Okay? Because going too far produces some really weird, it sounds like elephants if you go too far. See, that's overbending. Also, conversely, folks, you don't want to underbend either because underbending doesn't sound good. Okay, it sounds like a rhino. To me, it sounds like an elephant. All right, we want to bend in tune. Okay, so work on that. Next week, we're going to review a little bit of what we just did today, and then especially go over the unison bends with the vibrato on top, because that's actually kind of hard. And I don't expect everybody to get it right away, but with a little practice, you can do it. Okay. And then we'll start looking at example 6 on page 2. We'll get into that next week, and then continue on with our journey with string bending and vibrato. Okay. So looking forward to working with everybody next Wednesday night. Get your questions together. Feel free to put them in the comment bar, and I'll answer them as best I can. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday night. Okay, so I can't see the comment bar, so I won't be able to see who's saying goodbye or whatever. But I will catch everyone next Wednesday. All right, be good, everyone. Keep practicing. See ya. Bye.